Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy. Well, good evening, everyone. James Scott here, as always. Besides me is my lovely wife, Savannah. We're going to be talking and reviewing about a movie tonight. Which movie is that?
The Amazing Spider-Man.
The Amazing Spider-Man. You had it right there in front of you. There was no guesswork involved.
I didn't look at it.
Sure you did.
No.
You saw it right there.
Not me.
Okay. Well, The Amazing Spider-Man. We also... Oh, look. He's chilled out. Our baby was not wanting to sleep, but it looks like he might be okay with sleeping now. So we will see how that goes. Before we begin this, we have to say we just watched the trailer for the new Megamind movie on Peacock. And I would rather...
Die.
Yeah. The trailer was really, really bad. I can't even imagine the movie.
I know. It looked like... It reminded me of a video game. Like a really bad video game.
Yeah.
And
It just looked like...
/ rescue bots. Like, it was like rescue bot animation.
Yeah. Like, it's just content they were making for the sake of making it. Like...
Especially since the first... Megamind didn't need a sequel.
No. Anyway, as far as we're concerned, it doesn't exist.
It's true. And like that didn't hit me as a sequel so much as just something else. Like, I feel like there are other movies like that too that like they're technically like sequels, but they don't actually count as sequels.
Gotcha. So like if DreamWorks decided they really want to do a Megamind sequel, they'd like do something better than that. Because DreamWorks, to be fair, DreamWorks, this is not related to The Amazing Spider-Man, so we apologize, audience. DreamWorks is actually very good at sequels for the most part. They've had a very good history with sequels, whether it was, not that I've seen Shrek 2, or it's been... No, I've seen Shrek 2.
It's a good, yeah.
Shrek 2 is considered a good one. Kung Fu Panda 2 is good. How to Train Your Dragon 2. Even Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, a lot of people do consider that better than the first one. Not that you agree, Savannah. So they have a pretty good run with sequels. So I'm not sure what happened with this one.
I know. Well, it's because they gave Peacock. What even is Peacock? I know it's a streaming.
It's a streaming service.
But does anyone care about it?
Yeah, it's The Office.
Oh, it's The Office. Okay.
And Oppenheimer, apparently. Oh. So, I don't know. Maybe it was something in production that they realized it was going downhill too fast. And went, let's just give this to Peacock and see what they do with it. Because it's an embarrassment. I'm just going to say
Truly.
that. I would not want my studio's name at all related to that.
I know. I wouldn't. When we show Megamind to our children, they'll never know that Megamind exists.
That's true.
That's the Megamind that visits them in their nightmares.
Anyway, back to our primary topic, The Amazing Spider-Man. So, for those of you who haven't listened before, I'm going to run down our episode structure real quick. I've got a list of facts that I'll tell Savannah that she may or may not know about the movie. Then we'll go into our general history and thoughts about the movie, if we have a general history. Hopefully we have thoughts about the movie. That'd be weird if we didn't. Then we'll talk about a favorite moment of the movie. We'll go through our rating system. That we have 4 categories that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. We'll come out with our overall rating. And then we will, at some point, move on to our next movie. Maybe it'll be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Maybe not. Who knows? So, Savannah, ready for some facts about this movie?
Yes.
Ready? Awesome.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
So this movie was released on June 13th, 2012 in Tokyo. However, it was released on July 3rd, 2012 in the United States and for the rest of the world.
Oh.
So I'm not sure why that happened the way it did.
Because there's a giant lizard in it?
I guess so. They're like, we get first dibs. It was distributed by Sony Pictures. It has a runtime of 136 minutes. It had a budget of about $200 to $230 million. I guess they don't know for sure, or Wikipedia doesn't at least. It has a
I hope the people who made the movie know for sure. That would be really
Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe like, it's definitely going to gross enough. We don't need to pay attention. It has a box office of $758 million, and it currently is the 106th highest grossing film. The 7th highest grossing film of 2012. What came out in 2012 that would have beat this? I guess the Avengers and The Dark Knight Rises.
Should I Google?
You should.
Here, I don't have my phone.
I mean, we don't.
Now I'm curious, though.
You're curious?
Yeah.
So definitely The Dark Knight Rises and The Avengers came out that year.
Yeah, highest grossing film of
2012 highest grossing. Yep.
Oh,
the first two. The Hunger Games.
Oh, wow. They had all kinds of cool stuff.
So The Avengers grossed $1.5 billion. Skyfall, which is a James Bond movie, was $1.1 billion. The Dark Knight Rises was about $1 billion. The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Ice Age: Continental Drift, $877 million. No. The Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part 2. Okay, so the first four make sense. Ice Age.
I didn't know Warner Bros. Did The Hobbit. Did they do Lord of the Rings too?
You kind of. I think it was, what was it? It was New Line Cinema. But I guess Warner Brothers technically helped distribute it to an extent. I'm not entirely sure how that worked. So that's what came out that year. That's interesting.
Continental Drift. Is that the one?
That's the fourth one. That's the fourth Ice Age movie.
Is that the one where they had the popsicles that you could buy? That had like the little frozen people and frozen things inside?
I mean, that could have been any one of them, to be
fair. That's true.
So that's interesting. So yeah, 7th highest grossing 2012. It's the 19th highest grossing superhero film. The 5th highest grossing Spider-Man film. Because probably all the Tom Holland ones were more than this. And that's 3 already.
That's weird. Okay.
It's the 6th highest grossing film distributed by Sony and Columbia. Other Spider-Man movie are probably higher than it.
Speaking of which, this is a somewhat side note, so you don't have to include this, but would you say that Timothée Chalamet is the new Tom Holland?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
That's just personal preference. And this is the highest grossing reboot of all time worldwide. So, there was the original Spider-Man trilogy with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire. And so I guess this, at the moment, stands as the highest grossing reboot they've ever done of a character like that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. It was directed by Mark Webb, which we can't help but chuckle at. What a coincidence. Spider-Man.
I know.
Mark Webb is known for doing a lot of dramas. He did 500 Days of Summer. He did Gifted and The Only Living Boy in New York. He described this particular Spider-Man movie as having an indie film at the heart of it, which I definitely can see where he was getting at. Like the little intimate drama moments of like, almost think of like Peanut Butter Falcon. That would be an indie movie. It wasn't the best indie movie, but like it was kind of like about the characters and kind of just following them and the dramas a little bit. It was very personal.
Uncle Ben and Peter,
Peter and Gwen, and there was I could see touches of that in there. The score was by James Horner, who did Braveheart, Titanic, Avatar, so all those. The cast obviously has Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Rhys Ifans. He did Kurt Connor, and Sally Field did Aunt May.
Okay, why do we know her?
She was in Miss Doubtfire. She was the mom in Miss Doubtfire.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense now? I guess she also starred in Forrest Gump. She's done a lot of things. We just haven't seen most of them.
Okay.
as far as the development history for this movie goes, there is going to be a Spider-Man 4 in the Raimi universe. Sam Raimi is the director of the original trilogy. But the director and Tobey Maguire just felt that it was time to move on because they couldn't think of any more story to go on. However, the crew for Spider-Man 4 stuck around. So they went ahead and just decided to make a reboot. Or the studio
wanted
decided
to do another Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They're like, we
need to do Spider-Man. So the casting, Andrew and Garfield and Emma Stone, as I just mentioned, were in it. But what's very interesting is they both were very passionate about the roles they took. Like, it's well known that Andrew Garfield was very passionate about Spider-Man and took it very seriously. And people consider it a great shame that he didn't get a chance to do like a third one. So they thought of the third Tom Holland movie, No Way Home, kind of being like his chance for redemption. Because people don't love these amazing Spider-Man movies.
But they liked his Spider-Man.
They liked his Spider-Man.
Okay.
What he ended up saying, Andrew and Emma were both very passionate and wanted to make the characters these iconic characters their own characters. Emma Stone was basically set in stone as Gwen Stacy from the beginning, and they went through a couple different people for Spider-Man, but it was the chemistry between Andrew and Emma that solidified Andrew's role. Spicy. Andrew did yoga and Pilates to work on flexibility, and he studied a lot of spider movements to incorporate into Peter Parker's character, not just after he became a spider, but even beforehand. Which was, okay, interesting. He apparently cried the first time he put on the Spider-Man suit.
That seems like something he would do.
Does it?
Yes.
And something controversial about the film was the design of the lizard not having a snout, because in the comics it has a snout.
I didn't like the lizard's design. I thought he was weird.
So in the comics he has a snout. In this one he looked kind of like that weird Bowser character from the live-action Mario movie. I haven't seen it. I've just seen pictures of it.
Live-action Mario movie?
Yeah, we don't talk about that one. Nobody talks about that.
I know.
Nobody talks about the live-action Mario movie.
I haven't heard of that. No wonder.
But Mark Webb said he didn't want a snout because he wanted to keep the actor's performance, and it was easier to keep it without having the snout. As to whether he got that, that's debatable.
Yeah, that's weird.
Reviews overall were positive. A lot of people considered Spider-Man at this point to be described as like a Shakespearean play. It's a story that can be done over and over again in different settings.
As we see Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. And, this movie did not win any significant awards. And aside from that, that's all the facts I have at the moment. So there you go.
Wow.
There you go. So, Savannah, do you have a history with this movie? And what are your general thoughts about it? Spoiler free.
I don't think I have a history with this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I just remember when Abby, my sister, was watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about it. But, like, I'm not a superhero movie person. Like, it's not something I seek out. So, like, I'd never really be like, I want to watch the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. As far as general thoughts, I found it enjoyable.
Yeah.
And entertaining. I enjoyed it. As I said. And it was enjoyable and I enjoyed it.
Good.
I'm trying to think of other spoiler-free things to say. I have a generally positive feeling about it.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's good. History.
I think all the gripes that we will go into this review probably are more technical gripes than anything else.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I don't really have a history with this one. I just remember kind of vaguely hearing about it when it first came out because my uncle went to see it and he liked it a lot apparently. The first time I ever saw him Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was in No Way Home.
I don't even remember No Way Home.
It's the multiverse one where Tobey Maguire and Andrew.
I know. I know we saw it, but like I barely remember it.
Okay. What was it like? All the villains come into the world and the Spider-Man and they have to stop them. But like Tom Holland wants to save the villains instead of send them back to die.
Oh, okay, yeah. And they're all like all in their little clear tank things.
Yeah,
under.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I very, very vaguely remember that.
What was I saying? I can't remember being in love with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in that movie.
I hope not.
However...
I thought you were in love with me.
I am, don't worry. However, we'll go into this more later. Andrew Garfield as an actor has really grown on me over time.
So you are in love with him.
I might be now. My general thoughts on the movie. I thought this movie was fine. I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it for the most part, but there was a certain point where I no longer enjoyed it and wanted it to be over. I really respected that the director and his team were trying to make this a very different Spider-Man movie than the first one, and I appreciate some of the choices they chose. It did feel a little more artsy in some ways than the Tobey Maguire, or the first Tobey Maguire one. I haven't seen the second.
I haven't seen. Have I seen any of the Tobey Maguire ones?
You probably haven't. No.
Maybe we should watch all the Spider-Man.
All the Spider-Man, do Spider-Man in review. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can appreciate some of the things they went for. Some of them did better than others, and like I mentioned about the indie aspect, I think whenever those moments were happening, that's when the movie shined the most.
Sure.
I just think anything Spider-Man related, unfortunately, was kind of dumb, which is a problem.
Anything when Spider-Man it's about related Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Wow, that's so sad.
So those are my thoughts. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I can't say I was impressed.
More depressed.
Depressed, I guess so. Did you have a favorite moment of the movie? Anything stand out to you?
Not really. Nothing's like smacking me upside the head.
Smacking upside the head, like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Maybe it was funny when he got his spider powers first.
That was pretty funny. The alarm clock moment.
Oh yeah, no, that was actually probably that was funny.
That was pretty funny. Favorite moment. Yeah, it was pretty enjoyable when he did get his spider powers because his reactions were so over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was funny.
He didn't know what to do with it. I enjoyed that very much. The whole train sequence, it was a bit awkward in a lot of ways, but it was pretty funny. Okay, so now we'll go into our rating system. We have 4 categories here that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. That includes our overall entertainment, the overall quality, production quality, the writing, and overall content. So, Savannah, for you personally, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for entertainment? Here.
I'm trying to think back to when we watched it. All those days ago.
All those days ago? It's been almost a week.
I remember being pretty entertained.
Yeah.
For the most part. I do remember finding some parts boring.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember, my 4 and your 4 are not the same.
Gotcha.
Your 4 is a little higher, I feel like, than my 4.
Do you feel like my 4 is higher?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, I would say probably a 4.
Okay.
And nothing too, like, cringe or anything, which was appreciated.
Nothing too cringe?
Yeah, from what I remember.
Okay.
I thought some of it was a little slow, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. And I also I didn't like the lizard guy. He was creepy.
You didn't like him because he was creepy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, and I also thought he wasn't
creepy.
a super compelling villain.
No.
Like, it was weird more than anything else.
Yeah, that goes more into writing.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a 4. It was like, it was fine. If I could give it a 3.75, I would.
I mean, you could, but...
I don't want to make it too complicated. But yeah, I'd give it a 4.
Okay. I would give this a 3. It was close to being a 4. Once the lizard became involved, it became more and more gradually boring for me to the point where the third act, I wanted it to end. I was not enjoying it anymore. I was very bored out of my mind, which is really sad.
Yeah, it was pretty boring once the lizard came.
I think the first act of this is pretty decent for the most part, simply because that's going into writing. The most entertaining aspect of this for me were definitely Andrew and Emma's character, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Like their chemistry?
Yeah, their chemistry, and I think they're like I said, I really like Andrew Garfield now. I really liked his interpretation of Peter Parker. I just like watching him act. I think that was a lot of fun. He played a very moody Peter Parker as opposed to like Tobey Maguire, who's a total dork. And then there's like Tom Holland.
Literally, is this a more moody Peter Parker?
He was more moody.
I feel like there was a switch that flipped where he became dorky. Like once he started being like wearing the Spider-Man suit, I feel like
I meant Peter Parker in and of himself.
Okay,
like he was a little more of a conflicted Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And then there's the Tom Holland one. I haven't seen aside from the last Tom Holland movie. I haven't seen the others. I feel like they've perfected the teenage Peter Parker with Tom Holland. I felt like Andrew Garfield wasn't quite teenager-ish enough for my taste. And Tobey Maguire wasn't even a teenager at all. It was just really awkward.
He's like an old man.
Pretty much. So I think just the actors were my favorite part about it for the most part. Those intimate moments. But yeah, once it started, I told this to Claire. Once the bigger it got, the less and less interested I became. It was unfortunate that that's the way it went. Production quality. What would you give this for production quality?
I thought the sets were pretty good.
Okay.
For the most part. I thought production does acting come under production?
Yeah, okay, so production would be acting, the cinematography, music, editing.
Yeah.
Like you said, set design.
Set design, acting was pretty good, in my opinion. I felt that the lizard guy wasn't the best actor.
Yeah, Rhys Ifans.
Yeah, I didn't think he was bad, but he isn't like the best. I thought the cinematography was pretty good for the most part, from what I remember. I would say I'd give it a 4 also.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent.
Okay.
All things considered.
I guess I would. Well, I guess I'd give this a 4.
How generous.
How generous, I know. Because I'm thinking of what else came out that year. Some of the movies we listed, like The Avengers, which...
was that the first of the Avengers movies?
No, that was... Well, that was the first Avengers. They'd had, like, the other individual superhero movies beforehand. That one's overall production quality was probably better, but granted, they probably had a much bigger budget.
Probably.
Yeah, I think this one's a 4. There's nothing in it that stood out as being particularly bad. This overall CG for the lizard was questionable.
Yeah, that was
especially anything with him regenerating that's when it got really weird and like that doesn't look realistic.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my only complaint as far as the production quality goes was the lizard.
And him not having a snout is a choice.
I don't even remember what he looks like. I just feel
he just has has a very creepy grin. Just that's all you need to know.
I know. I didn't like his eyes at all. Like I thought his eyes were very poorly done.
Yeah. I mean, that was a choice. I don't know if that can take away points for that being production quality so much as just it was interesting. The score, James Horner, I felt like I noticed it pretty well. I think it was pretty decent. He made it very much his own thing instead of, was it Danny Elfman, I guess, who did the other Spider-Man music? So yeah, that was much more of like a orchestral choir, like this is epic kind of thing. Whereas I felt that James Horner made this much more of like an intimate kind of piano thing.
I cannot recall a single ounce of the meaning from this movie.
Yeah, I can't say there was anything about it that stood out to me. I guess one of the biggest compliments I have heard these movies get is how immersive they make the Spider-Man swinging experiences. They say, or people have said that they feel like they get drawn into that very well. Like you feel very much like you're there with him when he's swinging through the city, which I felt for the most part. I didn't think it was like spectacular, but I went, that's definitely a step up from what we saw with like Tobey Maguire, where it was just kind of awkward.
Weren't those ones pretty old?
They're old. They're early 2000s.
Okay.
But
Tobey Maguire's also a little less flexible looking. He's a little more sturdy.
It's true. Those ones, people, I don't know, there's this thing, people like to hate on them because they're classic, but they're very corny.
Oh, we should watch them.
Should we? Maybe. Overall writing, what would you give this for writing, the characters, the story itself, the dialogue?
I would say, well, I will break it down.
Break it down.
Break it down.
Break it down.
I feel like the beginning with Peter's parents, kind of hard to understand.
It was a little rushed.
What was going on? A little rushed and kind of weird. I thought that Gwen's dad's role in the movie, the police guy, was kind of weird too.
Yeah.
I felt like they were trying to there were like a lot of strings trying to be pulled together, but I don't think all of them really did.
Yeah.
Like the guy that killed Uncle Ben.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that one. Like, they did not continue that plot thread or follow it up in any way.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird. Aunt May's feelings after he died, also kind of weird.
Yeah, we didn't really get to sit with her.
Yeah, we didn't. She was just kind of like sad, like crying, but like still functioning pretty well. Almost like he died of old age, wasn't murdered on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
In cold blood.
Yeah.
Which was kind of weird, too. So I would say those were all kind of the main things I'm thinking of.
Okay.
I'd probably give writing a 3.
Okay. Yeah, this one, I would agree. This gets a 3. I have a lot more gripes, though, than you do. So I'll bring up the points you mentioned, and you can comment based on what you think. So there's the whole plot where Uncle Ben is killed by someone that Peter Parker could have hypothetically prevented from killing him if he had stopped ahead of time, but it was a weird situation. He was in a bad headspace. So Uncle Ben ended up, doing the thing that Peter should have done, and he ended up dying. So like, okay, this is interesting. This is not bad writing. This is actually kind of good. And so Peter Parker goes on this hunt for this man, which is fine. I think that was very interesting because he's still not being the good Spider-Man. He's still kind of just doing what he feels like. And naturally, he's hunting for very specific types of people, so the cops are like very suspicious of him.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not setting yourself up for success.
I thought that was funny how he checked everyone's rooms.
Yeah. So there was a lot of setup for interest.
How fortuitous that the guy that killed Uncle Ben happened to have a very distinctive tattoo.
I know, it's true. But then, like you said, they just kind of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah.
Like, there was no conversation even about Peter Parker's change of heart, so much as just he kind of heard Gwen's dad talk about, this guy isn't a hero. He's done nothing to really prove that he's a hero because he's weirdly specifically hunting specific type of people. And that kind of like sparked.
And then does he like go start chasing car thieves and stuff instead?
Yeah.
That seems weird because like he had a personal thing.
Yeah.
And then he just like gave up and he's like, I'm going to chase car thieves instead. And then he's like, he doesn't care about avenging his uncle anymore.
Yeah, it was weird. There was no follow through to that plot. I thought the Flash relationship at the very end was kind of not well explained because that was another funny moment when Peter Parker is kind of like showing off now that he's got Spider-Man skills to Flash, and I guess Flash has a weird moment after Uncle Ben dies where he's like trying to sympathize with Peter, but Peter overreacts, and it was just like, that just felt weird and kind of out of place because we had no context as to that relationship growing, but whatever. Uncle Ben's voicemail that he left Peter was the dumbest thing ever. Because
no one says that much stuff over a voicemail.
And whatever, but the dialogue was weird and out of place because what happened was Peter came home, right? After not picking up Aunt May. Which is why Uncle Ben would have been calling him in the first place. And when Peter got home, Uncle Ben was livid. He's like, why didn't you...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. And then he's like, leaves a voicemail. I was like, Peter, I know you're having
It was the
really
calmest and most sweet and gentle. And it's like, what happened in that span of 20 minutes?
I know. So he's like, Peter, I know that you're not home right now. Or you're blah, blah, blah. You're not doing great right now. And then, like, Peter arrives home and he's like, you absolute loser. Why didn't you pick up your aunt? Why is she walking home in the dark? Yeah, that's weird. I never thought about that. That was a good point.
And that was a good moment in the movie. The voicemail was terrible, but like that tension was really good. Like I said, there was a lot of drama in this movie that was really good, and I wish it had almost stayed like a small movie instead of a Spider-Man movie. Anywho, the secret at the end was just so not needed, where Gwen's dad ends up dying trying to help Spider-Man out, and he realizes...
Wait, he died?
Yeah, he gets...
Okay, I forgot about
the lizard
that. Yeah.
like stabs him or something. And Peter Parker reveals himself, as Spider-Man as he's dying, and the dad makes him make a promise, leave Gwen out of this. That's fine. That could lead to interesting plot, but my problem is that they tried to resolve it too quickly, as opposed to it maybe going on to the next movie.
Yeah, that actually would have been...
I would have really liked that, because that would have been so much drama, and that would have really invested us in the story as Peter's wrestling with that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, a scene where he doesn't go to the funeral, he's really awkward and sad, and Gwen is sad, and
then she's like, wait, your dad told you not to date me?
Yeah, like...
My dad told you not to date me?
Yeah, as opposed to Peter just not telling her.
Yeah.
It's just, I did not like that.
Yeah, because, like, if he did, like, avoid her, and that movie ended with her being, like, sad that he...
Yeah.
But then the next movie, he, like... They eventually get back together. That would have been so much better.
And we already know how the second one ends, so it would be so much more sad.
Yeah. So... Does Gwen always die in the Spider-Universe? Or MJ or Mary Jane?
I guess she might. Oh, I wonder how they'll handle that in Into the Spider-Verse.
Tom Holland's girl didn't die.
That's MJ, though.
MJ.
That's MJ. That's not Gwen.
So,
MJ
isn't Gwen and Mary Jane the same?
No. Gwen is technically another Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. So this is where the Spider-Verse comes into play. There are different variations, but like I guess in the comics originally she was a Spider-Woman.
But she's not in the Andrew Garfield ones.
Well, she never got to the Spider-Man point.
Oh.
I guess because that was her variation.
That's so weird.
It's very convoluted.
That seems very unnecessarily convoluted.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So Mary Jane doesn't die?
No, she does not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple other points I felt like I was going to mention. The villain in this story was sorely lacking.
Both in character and in limbs.
It's true. First off, we know from a mile away who this villain is because he's a very cliche villain. Sympathetic guy, wants to do good for the world because he himself suffers from something. He makes a bad decision or goes a little too crazy. And then
mad scientist.
Mad scientist, right? But he injects himself with this serum, which gives him lizard powers. But for me, it's not clear, one, how it really works because he has to keep giving himself more.
But then eventually he doesn't.
Yeah, so like, and that wasn't explained very well. So I was very confused as to what
Yeah, because in the beginning it made it seem like he gave himself an injection, but the effects didn't last very long.
Yeah.
And then the last scene, or the last act, like he's just a lizard the whole time.
Yeah. So he unfortunately was just not a very sympathetic character, in my opinion. There was that weird scene where he sprayed the other people with weird. A SWAT team. They became lizards. And
we saw nothing of them.
We saw nothing. That could have been interesting. Yeah. That could have made more of a dilemma.
All we did was see them be green and scaly for a second, and then they got the antidote.
But if they became like actual monsters, that would have been just another interesting drama part, as opposed to Peter Parker swinging across the cranes, because, America's for Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Or Spider-Man, which was cheesy.
Blue collar America is pro Spider-Man. Yeah, that was weird.
So there's a lot of smack I've talked about this movie. Like I said, I think the moment it shined is when it was a very intimate character drama. I think what Andrew Garfield chose to do with Spider-Man was fine. His interpretation was fine. It's just the material itself wasn't handled super well. But when it was, Peter Parker's relationship with his aunt and uncle, that's when I was invested. When it was his relationship with Gwen, that's when I was invested. Yeah. But they just unfortunately did not marry that very well to the Spider-Man elements, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And one of the things about superhero movies that's really fun is because you have larger than life situations, you can take these little intimate moments and notch them up a level, because you have, Spider-Man who is living this very multifaceted life, and he can tell people information and not tell people information. He's conflicted as a person, and it just gets really complicated, and that can be potential really invest us in his character. They just didn't do that well enough for me here.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about how you said that this Spider-Verse is like Shakespeare, and you can just retell it a million times. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So profound.
So profound.
Did you come up with that?
No, I found it. I forget which critic mentioned it. But yeah, I really liked the romantic interests, Gwen Stacy in this one. I liked, she had very interesting costume choice the whole time.
Yeah, that was very that time. Like, that was very 2012.
Was it? Okay.
Yes.
I liked how Peter Parker just came out and told her right away that he was Spider-Man. It's like, oh, this is new. It just kind of shows a little bit of immaturity.
Yeah.
To an extent, because he's like too quick and eager to. Yeah, there were some little good things sprinkled out there, just not enough for me to really be like, oh, okay, I could easily watch that again.
Yeah, I would say I could watch it again, but like the lizard action sequences were just like a little too long.
Yeah, they just weren't investing enough, unfortunately. I didn't care about the city enough.
Yeah.
Kind of like think of another vigilante, Batman, in Gotham City, and like how, and specifically in the Christopher Nolan movies, they do a really good job at making you care about the city for the most part. So whenever there's an action scene, it's like, oh, they're fighting for the city, and I believe it because you've given me every reason to believe in the city. Whereas in this one, it wasn't intimate enough for it to be like just about the characters.
Yeah.
But they didn't invest in me in the city enough for me to be like, oh, save the city kind of thing. Yeah. So much as it was just, you're telling me I should care about the city, but I haven't seen any reason to care about the city.
Yeah.
Anywho. So content. What would you... Well, content is where we weigh the more negative aspects against the positive aspects. Did they fit in? Was anything offensive? Was there just unnecessary material they put in there that just kind of prohibited from enjoyment? So what would you rate it, and what are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to think. So there was nothing offensive as far as like sexuality, I don't think. Yeah. There's like some kissing, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Nothing really too violent. There's Uncle Ben getting shot and bleeding out on the sidewalk, which is a little dark, but like nothing too violent.
Yeah.
Language, I think there were probably a couple S words.
Yeah, there was very close. There were different iterations of the F word.
Really?
But, yeah, but they were very brief. It was just like they said something, you knew what they kind of meant by it, really.
Yeah, but I don't think there was nothing really. I feel like a young teenager could watch this. Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4.
I would probably give it a 4 too. There wasn't anything crazy about it. There was the scene on the train.
Oh yeah, that was probably the most edgy part.
Yeah, but they didn't linger on it super long, and it was Peter. It was on Spider-Man or Peter Parker at the point, just being really awkward.
Yeah.
With his new powers, which definitely was.
Yeah, that wasn't necessary.
No,
but it was funny. I don't think it was like tasteless.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, language was pretty decent. There wasn't anything too scary. I kind of wish the lizard was scarier, but whatever.
You wish he breathed fire?
That could have been cool. No, I just wish they gave me more of a reason to fear him, but they didn't.
I did find the scene of Gwen back at the lab trying to make the antidote. I found that scene kind of scary.
Did you?
She was lurking. I don't like things like that. Yeah. I think that probably fuels my scary dreams that I have.
Really?
Yes.
I like that. I like that moment because it showed the lizard not being a total monster so much as just like, I'm not just gonna kill people if they say killing people.
He's like, I just really want to turn everyone into a lizard like me, so they can live better lives and regenerate their limbs.
Exactly. Yeah, content.
Whether or not they want to.
It's true. No consent. That's a little.
Soul Surfer gets covered in it. Her arm grows back. Her entire career is gone. Nick, whatever you pronounce his last name.
Oh no.
You know him? The guy with no arms and no legs. Nick Vajuk.
No.
You've not seen him?
No.
Anyway, his arms and legs grow back. No career.
No career. It's true, but they'd be lizards, so like. Also, that was a weird moment. All the lizards in New York, like congregating. Like that's one thing to do when it's spiders, because spiders believably are everywhere, right?
I know, but like lizards.
Like lizards.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. They did look kind of tropical too. Like, where did these guys come from?
This is New York. It's cold up here. Anyway, content. Yes, I would agree. 4. This is pretty fine. Okay. So you can give your overall rating. It doesn't have to be based off of what you gave. So you gave a 4, a 4, a 3, and a 4. What would you say? How would that fall?
I would say 4.
A 4 overall for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm kind of feeling 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah, I think I'll go with 3.5.
Okay.
It was an enjoyable 3.5.
Yeah, okay. What did I give it? I give it a 3, 4, 3, 4. That kind of lands me at 3.5 as well. I will give this a 3.25. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as you did. There were some things in it to me that made me a little more frustrated maybe than they made you. Just because we have seen, or at least I have seen better versions of it. I thought it was enjoyable. I wouldn't be in any rush to watch it again. I would watch this with other people, but I wouldn't like seek it out. And like I could see this being one I'd enjoy watching with other people. But yeah, I just wouldn't want to pick it out myself.
What does it say song in parentheses after?
Oh, that's because I copied it from Fiddler.
Oh, okay. I was like, there was a song in this movie?
No. There was Coldplay.
Oh yeah, I do. That was a weird part to have that song though.
Did it?
Yeah, because it was like a love song.
That's true. Yeah,
it was. But he was like...
He was in love with Gwen Stacy. She just asked him out. And so he was feeling all the things. He was going out.
Oh, I just felt like that was weird though, because he was like training. He was like...
No, he was testing out his skills, but like it was after she asked him out and he was feeling the hype.
Oh, okay.
That was a very well-placed song.
Okay, sorry. I'm not a boy, so I don't know how they process their feelings. No, because I'm like, wait, he's just working out for the duration of the song. Why is that romantic? But I guess he's dealing with his feelings.
He's feeling his feelings.
Okay.
He's thriving in his feelings.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, so that was our take on The Amazing Spider-Man. Thank you for listening in on this episode. We hope that you've been inspired to have some more conversation around the movies that you're watching. Let us know what you thought about this one in the comments, both the movie itself and our personal rankings. Yeah, and until next time, good film hunting.